quilting, or maybe you've been quilting for a while, but you're hanging out with quilting friends and people start throwing around this term or this acronym, and you're like, what are they talking about? Seems like a foreign language. If so, stay tuned because this video is for you. Hi, I'm Wendy Haney and I love quilting. I started this YouTube channel because I want to help you find the joy in quilting that it has made in my life. I want to let you know that my husband and I love farts. Yeah, I know. Bad start, huh? I was researching some quilting terms because I know the ones that I use, but I figured, oh, let's see what else is out there. And I came across fart. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding? I had never heard it before, but I found it rather hilarious. Fart. Fabric acquisition road trip. And you know what? Kevin and I go on those quite frequently. We went on one this morning, and I was on one on Sunday and on Monday. So there you have it. Sorry, couldn't help myself. So let's get serious here. Okay, BOM, block of the month. I'm sure you've heard that. Basically, it is a series that a quilt store does, or you can actually get them online where you sign up for the block of the month. And each month you're going to get a pattern and a set of fabric specific to making that block. So the pattern is for a specific block. And that block of the month could be for an entire year. So you're going to end up with 12 completed blocks in the same collection of fabrics by the end of the year or whenever you started. Or it could be less. Maybe it's 11 months and the 12th month is the finishing kit. Or starting out smaller. Either way, it's basically just getting a unique pattern for a new block each month. FMQ, free motion quilting. Basically, it's quilting not using rulers or anything else, but free motion. So you can do that on something like this, which is a long arm quilting machine, or you can even do it on your own machine at home. You're just putting the backing, the batting, and the top together, and then you're moving the fabric around in a free motion to quilt it. FMQ. FQ, fat quarters. Woohoo! Fat quarters can be very, very addicting. I'm sure if you've gone fabric shopping at all, you'll go to a fabric store and you're going to find they have a cupboard shelving unit full of fat quarters. Yeah, you can find them in my house too. Anyway, basically what a fat quarter is, it's a 1/4 yard of fabric, but it's not cut the way you normally would. Normally a 1/4 yard of fabric would be 9 inches by 44 inches, which is kind of narrow. Not a lot of fabric real estate. Instead, they cut the 1/2 yard in half. Therefore, you get a piece of fabric that's 18 by 22. Much more usable piece of fabric to get a variety of different cuts out of. FQ, fat quarter. FE is fat eighth, which is basically the same thing, where you're getting a 9 by 22 inch cut of fabric instead of the traditional 4.5 by 44, which is pretty much a waste of time. I'll admit I don't do a lot with fat eighths, but depending on, you might be doing a pattern that wants you to have a large variety of fabrics, so they may say go out and get 15 fat eighths, and there you go. So then you've got it. LAQ. LAQ equals long arm quilter. That is somebody that quilts on a long arm. I'm a long arm quilter. I do it for myself though. Generally when they're referring to this, they're referring to somebody that you're taking your quilt to that is going to use a long arm machine to get it finished for you. LQS, local quilt store. Hopefully you have one. I'm lucky enough to have Fabrics Plus in Marshall, Minnesota, just about 30 minutes away. Sable, this was a new one for me. I hadn't heard this one before. Stash, accumulation beyond life expectancy. So stash, they say, is special treasures all secretly hidden. Well, sorry, My stash is pretty much in full view because I have a husband that has a tendency to help me accumulate that stash as much as I do, and he's full aware of it. Sadly, there are people that need to hide their stash from their significant other. I'm sorry if that is you. So your stash accumulation beyond life expectancy. I think I'm still okay with that. And you know what, with this whole COVID thing, I think those people that had a large stash were really glad they did. And they were making very, very good use of it when they couldn't get to their local quilt store. So never let somebody tell you a stash is a bad thing. UFO, unfinished project. Yes, I have some unfinished products over there, but I consider those WIPs, work in progress, because I'm working on them, even though they're not finished. Whereas in a bin right down there, there's a project that's been started like 25 years ago. I consider that a UFO. I may get to it, just not sure if that mauve and hunter green color scheme is going to come back in style. We shall see. WOF. You'll oftentimes hear this term in a block of the month or other patterns that somebody has written that says cut width of fabric. So your width of fabric is generally 44 inches. So your width of fabric is from your selvage here to your fold. That's your width of your fabric. Your length of your fabric would be, in this case, I think I have 2 yards of fabric, so my length would be 2 yards in this case. So WOF is your width of fabric, LOF would be length of fabric. RST, right sides together. Generally speaking, it's not very often where somebody says sew the wrong sides together, but your right sides together. So this is the right side, that's the wrong side, right, wrong. So you want to sew those together. Therefore, when you get done sewing, right sides are on top and the seams are in the back. RST, right sides together. Kevin found this last one at the quilt store that we were just at this morning. QFF, Quilting Friends Forever. I thought that sounded appropriate. We all need those. Okay, a while back, Moda started coming out with pre-cut packages. And so you might hear these terms thrown around. A mini charm pack. A mini charm pack is a package of 2.5-inch squares of fabric in the same fabric collection. So this is a very nice fall fabric collection there from Moda, and it has 42 2.5-inch squares. So this is a mini charm pack. My friend Diane loves these. I don't use these very much, but I could see maybe for a table runner or something, could come in handy. I prefer the regular size charm pack, which is 5 by 5. So this is a set of 40 squares, all from the same fabric collection, cut 5 by 5. Those are nice. And the thing with all of these collections that I'm showing you, there are patterns and pattern books out there that are completely intended to be used with these pre-cuts. Go buy a bunch of pre-cuts, get your pattern, you're ready to sew. None of that time taken to cut everything up. Next size up is your layer cakes. Layer cakes are 10 by 10. And these can be sliced and diced in a variety of ways. You could cut them in quarters, 5 by 5 by 5. So then basically if you'd have 4 times as many 5 by 5 pieces. So maybe they have a variety of layer cakes that you really like and not 5 by 5s. No worry, they got you covered. You just can cut them in a variety of ways. And once again, there are plenty of patterns out there for your layer cakes. Jelly rolls, I love these. These are 2.5 by 42-inch cuts, same collection of fabric. So once again, if you're worried about combining fabrics, you're new and you're like, oh, picking out fabrics that I know will go together really scares me, I don't know what to get. Look at some of these pre-cuts. They're all from the same fabric collection, so you know they're going to go well together. Love the jelly rolls. And these are batiks, my favorite. Fat quarters. Talked about fat quarters just being able to go into the store and buy a variety. Well, a lot of times you're able to buy a fat quarter bundle, where somebody, whether it's your fabric store or the fabric designer, has put together a set of fabric from the same collection that all goes together. So batiks, fat quarter bundle. And they also have fat 8 bundles too. Now I'm getting fabric all over. Okay, a few other terms. Finger pressing. Basically, it's just what it is. So you went to the sewing machine, you sewed your triangles together, and instead of taking them to the ironing board, you're going to just stay there and you just press them with your fingers. Sometimes that's just enough to do what you need to do to be able to then just sit at your sewing machine and move on to the next step in the pattern. Domestic sewing machine, DSM. This one threw me a number of years ago when I started seeing this. I was reading an article. Your domestic sewing machine. Domestic sewing machine. Huh? Well, it's not all that complicated. Basically, it's your sewing machine. It's the one that you use to piece and sew on a regular basis. They call it a domestic sewing machine to differentiate it from a long arm quilting machine. So if you ever hear somebody mention domestic sewing machine, it's just the one you use for piecing at home. Your long arm quilting machine, that's what that is over there. It's a much bigger machine, has a very large throat on it. Like this one I think is 18 inches. You can get some bigger, ton of different brands out there. And it sits on a quilting, this rack. And basically it's on like wheels such that it slides back and forth. So when I want to quilt a quilt, the bottom, batting, and top, and put it all together, I put it on that quilt rack, and then I'll just do my FMQ, my free motion quilting, and that sucker just moves wherever I want it to do. Some people will also hook a computer up to it, and then they can program in it, and then it's pre-programmed to move automatically. Machine quilting, on the other hand, is quilting with your domestic machine, your home sewing machine. And you know what? There are plenty of people out there that do amazing quilting results from their home machine, even some really large quilts. Personally, the really large quilts, no, can't do it, which is why I got that. But baby quilts, table runners, lap quilts, you can do some impressive quilting on your regular home sewing machine. Marking tools. Yep, and some of these I talked about in another video about 11 tools new quilters need. So, marking tools. Micron, a Pigma Micron marker, very smooth, nice. Mechanical pencil, and just markers. Also, tailor's chalk, anything used to mark your fabric, your quilt top for your quilting. Rotary cutter, yes. This isn't the old days where our grandmothers, well, okay, and me, used these kind of nice scissors to cut their fabric, whether it was around templates or what. We now use rotary cutters. Rotary cutter is something that has a round blade. It is very, very sharp, and it works amazingly. So get yourself a rotary cutter. And then if you're using a rotary cutter, you need a rotary cutter mat or a self-healing mat. Because if you do not want to use this on your kitchen counter, dining room table, or you will be so unhappy with yourself because it will tear it up. It's that sharp. So you need one of these self-healing mats so that you can continue to cut on it and it won't ruin it. Seam allowance. Your seam allowance is the space between, that's better, your seam and the selvage. When you're quilting, generally that is 1/4 of an inch. If you're sewing clothes, that's 5/8 of an inch. So for me, it was a shift from sewing clothes to quilting to remember 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. Seam ripper. Yes, you quilt, you need one of these. This one came with my sewing machine, the tip, sharp. This one I bought, curved, very sharp, so when you have, oops, screwed up, you just slip it under your stitches and you can cut them out when you make those mistakes. Walking foot. These are really, really handy. So if you are a quilter and in it for the long haul, you really should get a walking foot, whether it is specific to your machine. So this is, I have a baby lock machine, so I have a baby lock walking foot. There are generic walking foots that do work. I actually tried one of those on my machine and the generic one did not do well. So I had to go with the one that's made for my machine. What it is it is a special foot that has grippers on the bottom of it. So when you're, for example, putting your binding on, you have a lot of layers of fabric. The back, the batting, the top, and now 2 pieces of your batting fabric. And you're trying to move that evenly through your sewing machine. And you've got your feet at the bottom that is moving the bottom. And so this makes sure the top of the fabric is also moving. So it keeps it much smoother. Get a walking foot. So there we have it. This is part 1, because you know what? There are so many terms and words used in the quilting industry that I'm sure I will be doing another video with more wonderful terms that are going to help you out. So then when you're having coffee and chatting with everybody else, you'll know exactly what they're talking about and you can throw those good acronyms in too. You know, my husband and I just did a fart the other day. Okay, well, maybe not. If you'd like to get a PDF of the terms and acronyms that I covered in today's video, just go over to my Facebook page, Wendy Haney. You can find the link below in the description and just leave me a note. Let me know you'd like the PDF and leave your email address and I will get that right out to you. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to stay up to date with all the new stuff I'm dropping, subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon. That way you'll be notified anytime I drop a new video into the channel. I'll be posting new videos every Friday morning with lots of great stuff that you aren't going to want to miss. I also would love to have you join me in my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook group that we're sharing things about life that I love. Quilting, needlework, machine embroidery, wine, books, a lot of fun stuff. So I'd love to have you join me over there. You can find it at facebook.com/group/lifefulfilled. I also can be found at the normal ways, Pinterest, Instagram, etc. You can find in the description below all the links of the places to find me, including wendyjhaney.com. If you found this video helpful, I would love to have you give me a thumbs up, drop me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see. Take care, and thanks for watching.